Some animals live in arid regions, while some animals thrive in polar regions. Plants in the tropical rainforests have drip tips and thick waxy surfaces that allow water to run off, while desert plants have spongy stems which store water and leaves reduced to tiny pointed spines. On our planet, every organism adapts to stressful environmental conditions through morphological, physiological, and behavioral means. In fact, the responses of these organisms are their adaptations to cope in unfavorable or stressful conditions. In other words, adaptation is any attribute of the organism that enables it to survive and reproduce in its habitat. Let's look at some of the morphological adaptations exhibited by organisms. Over the course of evolution, many adaptations have evolved and have been genetically fixed. Although life originated in water and is unable to sustain without it, some organisms can survive without water for days. In the case of the kangaroo rat in the North American deserts, the animal meets its water requirements by metabolic water. Metabolic water is released as a byproduct during oxidation of fat in its body. The body of this rodent is also capable of concentrating its urine so that very little water is used to remove waste products. Likewise, the camel can also survive without water for 10 days at a stretch and is capable of raising its body temperature to nearly 42 degrees Celsius to prevent the loss of water. Similarly, many desert plants have a thick layer of cuticle on their leaves with their stomata embedded in deep pits to reduce the loss of water through transpiration. These plants have also adopted a special photosynthetic pathway called CAM, or crassulacean acid metabolism, which enables their stomata to remain closed during the day. Some desert plants, like the opuntia, have leaves that are reduced to spines, and its flattened spongy stems perform photosynthesis. While some plants and animals have adapted to prevent the loss of water, some animals, particularly those found in colder regions, have adapted themselves to prevent the loss of heat. For instance, mammals from colder climates generally have shorter tails, limbs and ears, which help reduce loss of heat. This adaptation is called Allen's rule. Moreover, in the polar seas, aquatic mammals such as seals, whales and dolphins have a thick layer of fat known as blubber below their skin, which acts as an insulator and minimizes the loss of body heat. Apart from morphological adaptations, some organisms physiologically adapt themselves to respond to stressful situations. For example, as you ascend a mountain, atmospheric pressure and oxygen decrease, and you begin to experience altitude sickness. Its symptoms are fatigue, nausea, and palpitations. But in 2 to 3 days, your body gets acclimatized to such stressful conditions, after which you don't experience altitude sickness. This is because your body has increased the production of red blood cells, decreased the binding capacity of hemoglobin, and increased your rate of breathing to compensate for low levels of atmospheric oxygen. This also explains why tribes living in high altitudes have higher hemoglobin than those dwelling in the plains. While some organisms adapt themselves to live in high altitudes, a variety of marine invertebrates such as jellyfish, octopus, starfish, and fish such as the anglerfish and lanternfish thrive in deep ocean waters, where the pressure could be 100 times more than the normal atmospheric pressure. Such organisms show a fascinating array of biochemical adaptations to survive in such extreme conditions. Another interesting adaptation is by organisms found in harsh habitats such as deep-sea hydrothermal vents and hot springs, where temperatures exceed 100 degrees Celsius. Here, microbes belonging to the archaebacteria form flourish. While some organisms thrive in temperatures above 100 degrees Celsius, other organisms flourish in the Arctic and Antarctic waters, where temperatures are always below zero. Apart from physiological and morphological adaptations, some organisms also show behavioral adaptations to cope with their changing environment. For example, the desert lizard manages to keep its body temperature fairly constant by absorbing heat while lying in the sun when its body temperature is below normal. But when the ambient temperature is high, it moves into the shade. Likewise, some organisms such as earthworms, frogs, moles, and snakes burrow into the soil to escape the above-ground heat. Therefore, these animals are rarely seen on the ground in scorching summers. In this way, to adapt to unfavorable conditions, organisms have undergone morphological, physiological, and behavioral changes.